It takes a ridiculous amount of confidence to look at all-time classics like Chrono Trigger and Super Mario RPG and say, yeah, we can capture that exact magic. Yet Sabotage Studio managed to build an absolute pixel art monument that does just that. Sea of Stars follows two Solstice warriors using the powers of the sun and moon to smack cosmic horrors, but instead of relying purely on nostalgic member berries, it modernizes retro turn-based combat in every way that counts. There are 0 random encounters. You can swap party members mid-battle without losing a turn, and every single attack features active timed button presses to boost your damage or shield against incoming strikes. The lock-breaking system turns boss fights into satisfying tactical puzzles, forcing you to unleash specific elemental combinations to shatter an enemy's big spell right before the cast timer hits 0. Combined with seamless traversal where your characters physically climb, vault, and swim through dynamically lit environments, and a cozy soundtrack featuring guest tracks from legendary composer Yasunori Mitsuda, it's a breathtaking love letter to the 16-bit golden era that stands on its own 2 feet.
A new future is before us. A bright future. Today, we fight not for...
Arriving on the scene with the heavy political weight of a fantasy historical drama, Triangle Strategy takes the grid-based tactical RPG genre and drenches it in salt, iron, and cutthroat diplomacy. ArtDink and Square Enix built a world where every single conflict boils down to crucial resource management, and the story doesn't just ask you to make hard decisions, it forces you to convince your own council to vote with you on the scales of conviction. You're constantly forced to choose between utility, morality, and liberty, knowing full well that taking the high road might lead to a city getting burned to the ground, while playing dirty could save the people you love. The isometric tactical battles are brilliantly designed, prioritizing elevation, elemental terrain interactions, and backstab critical hits over simple stat checking, making every battle map feel like a deadly chess match where positioning is everything. There are no clear-cut good or bad choices here, only heavy consequences that branch the narrative into wildly different paths, making this a dark, remarkably mature strategy masterclass that treats its players' intelligence with total respect.
That is the rule agreed upon by the people of this peaceful town, and the castle protecting it.
Game Freak took a brief break from their massive Pokemon machine to cook up a tight, highly experimental indie RPG, and the result is easily one of the most bizarrely creative card battler hybrids you'll ever lay eyes on. Instead of traditional level grinding or wandering across a massive continent, Little Town Hero takes place entirely inside a single cozy, isolated village where a young, headstrong kid named Axe has to defend his home from random giant monster attacks. Combat doesn't use standard magic or sword strikes, rather you use your ideas, basically a deck of internal thoughts and strategies, and turn them into dazits to clash directly against the monster's attack moves to make things even wilder. Battles take place on a board game style map where a spin wheel determines where you move each turn, letting you team up with local villagers for environmental assists. Backed by an extraordinarily catchy, upbeat soundtrack composed by Undertale creator Toby Fox, it is a quirky, mind-bending strategy puzzle game that trades grand world-saving cliches for intimate small-town charm.
Giant sword fell from the sky and pierced through the castle.
When Nintendo handed their prized mustache-wearing plumber over to the JRPG wizards at Square in 1996, nobody expected a game that would forever rewrite the rules of turn-based design while giving us a floating cloud kid and a wooden doll with an arm cannon. Super Mario RPG completely tossed out the traditional select attack and sit back template by inventing timed action commands, forcing you to actually pay attention and button mash at the exact moment of impact to deal extra damage or block an incoming fireball. The modern remakes brilliantly preserve that quirky isometric charm while giving the visuals a gorgeous claymation-style facelift and backing it up with Yoko Shimomura's legendary, absurdly bouncy soundtrack. Beneath the colorful Mushroom Kingdom veneer lies a surprisingly deep tactical gameplay where swapping party members on the fly, like pairing Bowser's sheer physical intimidation with Geno's devastating single-target energy blasts, is the key to obliterating boss encounters. It doesn't take itself too seriously, endlessly pokes fun at Mario's silent protagonist routine, and manages to deliver a tight, fast-paced adventure that respects your time from the moment you hit start until the final star falls from the sky.
If you want revenge, then I'll help you get it.
If Persona is the cool kid who takes you out for sushi and karaoke on weekends, Shin Megami Tensei is its unhinged cousin who drops you directly into a post-apocalyptic Tokyo wasteland and tells you to fight Lucifer or get eaten. SMT5 Vengeance takes that brutal, demon-fusing foundation and transforms it into the absolute definitive demon-slaying sandbox, complete with a brand new story path, the Canon of Vengeance, that reshapes the narrative with fresh characters, new regions, and terrifying dark deities. Navigating the ruined dunes of Da'at feels phenomenal thanks to new traversal mechanics like Magatsu rails, but the real star of the show remains the unforgiving press-turn combat system. You hit an enemy's elemental weakness and you get extra turns. You miss or get blocked, and the game aggressively strips your actions away and wipes your entire party in 2 seconds flat, with hundreds of unique mythological demons to negotiate with, recruit, and fuse into god-tier monstrosities. It's a brilliant, haunting strategy heavy hitter that doesn't hold your hand. And frankly, you'll love it for being ruthless.
I've made a decision.
Standing on the severed calf of a dead mechanical deity and staring across a cloud sea at another continent-sized titan is the kind of opening statement few RPGs ever have the guts to make, let alone deliver on for 90 straight hours. Monolith Soft took what was already a miraculous technical feat back on the Nintendo Wii and gave it the complete cosmetic overcharge it always deserved, sharpening Shulk's iconic Monado blade alongside a track list of remastered music that honestly has no right slapping as hard as it does. The beauty of this game isn't just its staggering vertical sense of scale. It's the way the vision system turns real-time combat into a high-stakes puzzle game where you can literally peer a few seconds into the future to prevent your healer from getting obliterated by a giant territorial monkey. You get a massive extra epilogue chapter and future connected coal tweaks that actually make tracking side quests pleasurable instead of a full-time logistics job, and a story that escalates from a straightforward revenge quest into full-blown existential hard sci-fi. It remains an absolute mammoth of an open-world adventure that demands every shred of your free time, and frankly, Shulk feeling it for the 10,000th time in battle never gets old.
Expected to travel to various lands, sometimes with the Knights of Seros
Stepping into the boots of a mercenary-turned-professor at Garrigmok Monastery sounds like the cozy setup for a fantasy high school sitcom, right up until the grand political chessboard snaps in half and forces you to fight your former students on a mud-soaked battlefield. Intelligent Systems nailed a terrifyingly effective mechanic here. Half your time is spent micromanaging school schedules, sharing tea with high-strung noble kids, and making sure Bernie actually leaves her room, while the other half drops you into brutal, grid-based tactical combat where one bad move can permanently erase a character you spent 40 hours training. Choosing between the Edelgard, Dimitri, or Claude routes isn't just picking a different flavor of coat of arms, it fundamentally rewrites your entire perspective on Faudland's history and who the actual villains are. The game weaponizes emotional investment like a masterclass in heartbreak, making you care deeply about every unit's stats, class progressions, and tragic backstory long before the inevitable 5-year time skip turns their childhood rivalries into full-scale war. It is messy, addictive, and absurdly replayable, proving that the deadliest weapon on a tactical map is always the emotional attachment you built during lunch hour.
Your adventure will span the vast world of Erdrea.
In an era where modern role-playing games are constantly trying to reinvent the wheel with real-time hybrid combat systems and gritty, morally gray anti-heroes, Dragon Quest XI-S walks into the room wearing classic turn-based armor and completely owns the place. This is the ultimate video game equivalent of a warm homemade meal after a brutal day. A grand, unapologetic fairy tale journey featuring a silent luminary, a magnificent performer named Sylvando who casually steals every single scene he steps into, and a world so vibrant it feels like a playable Toriyama illustration. The Definite Edition upgrade on Switch goes above and beyond, letting you swap on the fly between full HD graphics and a gorgeous retro 16-bit 2D mode, while backing up the adventure with a fully orchestrated soundtrack and expanded character side stories that add real weight to the team's dynamic. The combat is refined simplicity at its finest, relying on deep tactical character synergy and the supercharged pep state rather than complex gimmicks to keep boss fights engaging. It takes a massive 100-hour commitment to see everything through to the true post-game ending. But the game is so fundamentally joyful and meticulously crafted that you'll willingly sink every weekend you have into saving Erdrea.
for each other. In order to realize that, I would suffer any loss.
Taking everything that made the original HD 2D visual style groundbreaking and dialing the mechanical complexity up to 11, this sequel proves that square pixels and modern lighting effects were meant for each other. Instead of feeling like 8 isolated strangers who happen to share a campfire, the team in Octopath Traveler 2 feels genuinely woven into the world of Solistia, complete with tandem stories, dynamic day-night abilities, and path actions that let you rob, bribe, or duel virtually every single NPC you run across. Whether you're following Oswald's gritty, snowbound prison break revenge story, or riding alongside Partitio as he uses pure capitalist optimism to cure world poverty, every single character arc brings a totally distinct narrative tone to the table. The break and boost combat system remains one of the absolute best turn-based frameworks in modern gaming, rewarding you for surgically cracking an enemy's defense shields before unleashing a heavily buffed, multi-hit ultimate attack that clears the screen in a shower of damage numbers. Add in a soundtrack that casually drops masterpiece after masterpiece into basic encounter music, and you get a breathtaking JRPG that honors classic 16-bit roots while leaving most modern pretenders in the dust. Dripping with so much hyper-stylish visual flair and jazz-infused attitude that it makes almost every other user interface in gaming look boring. Persona 5 Royal is a masterclass in turn-based game design. You spend half your time living out the ultimate Tokyo high school fantasy, studying for midterms, hanging out at arcade bars, and leveling up your social stats, and the other half donning a mask to invade the twisted psychological subconscious of corrupt adults as a phantom thief. What makes Royal the definitive version isn't just the sheer amount of polish injected into every frame, but how seamlessly the new third semester storyline with Kasumi and Dr. Maruki elevates an already incredible narrative into a deep exploration of grief and reality. Combat is a lightning-fast dance of targeting elemental weaknesses, triggering satisfying button passes, and culminating in screen-shattering, all-out attacks that never lose their punch even on your 100th hour. It manages to balance strict daily time management mechanics with dungeon crawling so smoothly that you'll find yourself saying just one more day at 3 in the morning, ignoring the fact that Morgana keeps telling you to go to bed. At a time when PlayStation-era RPGs were aggressively sprinting toward edgy sci-fi tropes, Final Fantasy IX staged an absolute masterclass in theatrical fantasy, proving that sometimes looking backward is the fastest way to move forward. Squaresoft threw a theatrical love letter to the entire franchise, wrapping a deeply existential narrative inside a vibrant storybook realm filled with airships, black mages with existential dread, and a tail-sporting thief named Zidane who refuses to leave anyone behind. What makes this entry hit so hard isn't just the charmingly rendered world of Gaia or the Nobuo Uematsu tracklist, which features some of the finest tunes ever put to disc. It's the sheer philosophical weight driving these characters. You have Vivi constantly confronting the terrifying fleeting nature of his own artificial life, Steiner wrestling with blind loyalty versus actual morality, and Garnet shedding her royal identity just to find her true voice in a collapsing kingdom. The active time battle combat delivers classic 4-man party synergies, ability learning mechanics tied directly to your gear, and a trance system that triggers at the worst times to ruin your strategy. It remains a timeless, heartwarming masterpiece that wears its classic roots like a badge of honor while delivering an emotional payload that still hits like a runaway cargo vessel. CyberConnect 2's dark, fur-lined tactical trilogy hits its absolute crescendo here, proving once again that putting a group of war-orphaned children inside a colossal steel tank is one of the most emotionally devastating concepts in modern gaming history. Fuga Melodies of Steel 3 takes the brutal high-stakes timeline mechanics that made its predecessors so nerve-wracking and dials up both the tactical depth and the sheer scale of the conflict. Your entire survival hinges on micromanaging the daily lives, mental stamina, and relationships of these kids inside the Tyrannies during intermissions, because every bond built directly translates into devastating combo attacks out on the grid. The iconic Soul Cannon, the literal ultimate weapon that demands you permanently sacrifice a character's life to instantly win a lost boss fight, hangs over your head like a dark cloud, making every single tactical error feel like a genuine heartbeat-stopping crisis. With expanded route choices, revamped battle systems, and a storyline that ties up every loose thread in the Little Tail Bronx universe. It stands as a triumphant, bittersweet finale that pulls no punches and leaves a lasting impact long after the smoke clears.
Students of Thors, these young ones who have taken on the pride of
Nihon Falcom's massive world-building engine reaches critical mass in this third installment, taking the absolute mountain of political intrigue from the previous games and dropping Rion Schwarzer right into the instructor's seat for a brand new Class 7. The beauty of this entry is how effortlessly it bridges the gap between old and new. You're no longer just the rookie student running around Erebonia, but a hardened war hero tasked with teaching a fresh batch of headstrong recruits while the entire continent slowly slides toward world war. The turn-based combat system gets a massive upgrade with the addition of brave orders and seamless command inputs, letting you break enemy guard meters and unleash devastating team-wide link attacks that turn complex tactical battles into pure adrenaline. The game does not care if your brain is already full. It drops dozens of detailed factions, returning characters from previous arcs, and deep geopolitical conspiracy threads right into your lap with zero apologies. It is a long, deliberate burn of an RPG that rewards every ounce of patience you give it, culminating in the kind of staggering cliffhanger that leaves you pacing around your room at 3 in the morning questioning all your life choices.
There are so many more things we could learn. If only our journey would continue.
Back when every single JRPG on the market was obsessed with edgy teenage protagonists who spent 60 hours crying in a corner about their tragic past, Tales of Vesperia waltzes in with Yuri Lowell, a charismatic zero-nonsense 20-something who looks at corrupt politicians and simply decides to take out the trash himself. That anti-hero swagger drives a massive, classic globe-trotting adventure, powered by the series' signature real-time linear motion battle system, which plays less like a menu-heavy math simulator and more like a flashy arcade fighting game where you're chaining together arties, free-running around bosses, and launching screen-clearing fatal strike. What makes this definitive edition hit so hard isn't just the glossy visual cleanup or the remastered soundtrack, but the fact that it throws in fully playable party members like the dual-sword pirate Patty and Flynn, along with an absolute ocean of content that was previously locked away. From beating up oversized monsters with a pipe-smoking dog named Rapide to watching the party bicker in dynamic skits, it's a vibrant, fast-paced action RPG that effortlessly balances dark vigilante justice themes with pure JRPG comfort food.
Suffering, crying out for whatever help will hear their pleas. Should I turn a deaf ear to those voices?
Vanillaware took one look at the classic tactical strategy genre and decided to handcraft a jaw-dropping visual masterclass that plays like a glorious cross between Ogre Battle and a high fantasy board game. Rather than moving individual units one space at a time on a small grid, Unicorn Overlord gives you a sweeping real-time tactical map across the continent of Fevrith, where you maneuver entire custom-built squads into battle. The sheer depth here is staggering. You recruit a massive roster of over 60 unique characters, ranging from heavy armored knights and elven archers to cheeky angel warriors, and assemble them into small fighting units where you program their exact target priorities, conditions, and skill triggers. Once your squad collides with an enemy unit on the map, the combat plays out automatically based on the brilliant tactical gambits you scripted beforehand, making every victory feel like you're an absolute military mastermind. Add in Vanillaware's signature lush 2.5D hand-drawn art style town liberation mechanic, and incredible food illustrations that make you want to order takeout immediately, and you get an instantly addictive strategy epic that dominates your free time.
Okay everyone, thanks so much for watching. If you liked that video, please leave a like and subscribe, and ring the bell if you want to get notified when we release new content. We hope to see you in the next video.